You're ready.
You ready?
You're ready.
Ready as I'll ever
All
be.
right. Let's do it.
Hi, welcome to the Annex. We are here with episode 4 of our Annex Artist Chats, and today it is, I guess, we're the originals. We're the origin of the Annex. So for those that don't know, we came together 2020 I guess we came back together thanks to Frank Lowe bringing the band back together. And we started a pop-up shop where we sold our own individual artwork as well as other artists. And we've just kind of been growing and growing since then. So we're going to talk a little bit today about, who we are as sort of like the core owners of the Annex and what our goals are and what we're going for. We're a little bit in transition mode right now. We are currently in the Westbrook outlets. We've been here since July as like a pop-up shop here, and it's been going great and awesome. But now we are headed back to New London. So let's get into it. We have Krista.
Hey, Krista.
Hello.
We have Denny.
Hey.
And I'm Cristin. All right, so if you guys want to just talk a little bit about your art in whichever way you want to encapsulate that. Denny, you want to start off?
Yeah, sure. My art is pretty, it all started in London. So there's a lot of my art, a lot of people that see my art, and they see me from the very beginning to now, which has been pretty awesome. A lot of my work is in New London. I've done stuff, for the community.
20 plus years?
Yeah, for a long time. It felt like yesterday, but you really look at it, it's a big long stretch. But so as of now, from then, here we are at the Annex.
You started off doing photography, right? You kind of grew from being a photographer.
My first love was photography. I had my first camera, and I got into photography really like early on in high school, which I was like, early 90s. Date myself, but so that transcended to other mediums, just because being around the arts, especially in London, like things were like growing. Not only that, back then Photoshop wasn't a big thing. It wasn't out there for people to use. If it was hard to find. So I wanted to manipulate my images. So that's where I took in getting into painting. So I could take that image and make it my own. So that's
Did you do acrylic or oil first?
I started with oil. I would dove right into oils, just because you could always go back and it still be wet, opposed to something that's acrylic that dries within minutes. So
yeah. And now, so obviously, because I know a little bit about your history,
Yeah. Really?
you painted, you did collage work, you've done street art, and now sort of over the last, I would say 10 years, right? Clash One has sort of become your brand.
That's my brand. That's my business name, and that's what I go by pretty much.
And whenever I think of like what Clash One started out as, was like super street hip hop inspired.
Yeah, it was. What happened was when you got to come up with a name that sort of fits like within your work. So what I did was I took all my work my work is pretty clashy. It all blend. I do all types of mediums. So I figured I'd use that word, and and make it to win. So it's number one. So put the W in.
Right.
Put them together. You have Clash One.
Because one of your aliases used to be Drop One.
Yeah, Drop One. But
right.
But you had to make it a little more cohesive and more meaningful. So I thought that would transcend a little better.
Did you have any other names? I'm trying to remember if you did. No, right? It was always like Drop One and then Clash One, right?
One.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at the Annex, you've really brought on, you've spent a lot of years talking about wanting to do apparel and design, and obviously we've been screen printing and experimenting with different printing since 2006.
Yeah.
But now you really have a steady flow of merchandise that's like hoodies, T-shirts, jackets. What would you describe it? I know it's kind of like movie nostalgia in a weird way with sports.
Yeah, my stuff is definitely. I grew up in the '80s, so it's a lot of '80s based on a lot of 80s stuff, with like baseball cards and toys. And, I played sports. I played baseball all my life. So a lot of athletics. I always loved gym in school. That was like number one. I'd go to school just for gym, So, I just took that and I'm still like working on my ideas and I have so much that I want to like put out and have like a follow. I have my followers of what, they sort of like the same thing. A lot of 80s kids grew up in that era.
It resonates with a lot of people.
Yeah, it does, and which is kind of cool. That's all I want. That's all I want, a good following that we could all be in that same room and relate.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool. That's what I'm striving for, and little by little. It's tough, having a full-time job and trying to deal with life and put your your eggs in one basket when it comes to that. So a little bit at a time. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I know. Me and Krista can probably both account to this, but definitely when people, go through your rack and see stuff, we'll get the people that are like, "Oh, I know this." They recognize it and they fall in love with it, which is really cool.
Yeah,
so.
I like it. I like yesterday's pop culture. Talking about the '80s. As you get older, you don't see things pop the same way. It just keeps moving pretty fast, and I'm still stuck in that era, which is my youth. So.
Right.
I totally, embrace that. So I try to run with that. That's
cool.
Like the key.
All right, Krista, you're up.
What was the question again?
Can you repeat the question? Just like about your brand, a little synopsis about your brand and your creations, and sort of like, a mini scope on your art journey, how you started.
So basically, like we had spoke about in the first interview a while back, fine artist to begin with, and then just always had a little character on the side that was like my fun project. And then eventually here I am just mostly focusing on the fun and the silly type of creative artwork. So that's kind of where I'm at now.
Yeah, what did we come up with? We were trying to come up with how to describe your work, because it's obviously there's in art there's like all these like specifics of like what, but you really don't fit into one box. I think it was like urban pop illustration or something like that. There was some like, there's a combination of things there. So you have really like, we've watched you kind of grow over, not to like say we're like, oh, we're watching you grow, but we have watched you grow.
I'm learning from you guys.
But you have so many, your hands on so many different things. You've got pins, you've got jewelry, you've got koozies. Like you've really taken printing your stuff to a whole new level, which is awesome. And stickers is obviously a big thing for you. Where do you think what do you think you like most about like creating and like putting things, sort of like making wearable art? Like what obsesses you, I guess, or what are you obsessed with out of that?
I think I just like to try new mediums and kind of bounce around between them so I don't get too bored. And just trying to like, really learn the whole merchandise thing and building a brand, building a character, putting it all together.
Yeah.
Slowly take over the world one day.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you have such great range. I mean, you do like little tiny mini artwork and then, these massive murals, which is awesome. And as does Denny as well. So, all right, cool. Well, my brand is Seekin and the Violet Sphinx. I'm a designer and I do some printing as well. And I've been talking so much that's all I'm just saying. Come into the store and check our stuff out. All right, so one of the things I definitely want to kind of play around with, because like obviously we all have different art forms. So like Denny, you started with photography, right?
Yes.
Krista, what was your first art form? Like even just as like a child?
I think drawing. Painting.
Yeah.
Arts and crafts in general.
Yeah.
Everything under that umbrella.
Yeah, doodling was a big one. My brother was a doodle artist first, and he drew, so that was for sure me too. And then just, kind of like dipped into sewing as a teenager. What do you think, Denny, you mentioned like, nostalgia, which I know you have a deep obsession with, you as a teenager or child. What was your favorite toy?
Yeah, wrestlers always been my favorite. It's like those big WWF. I'm a big WWF fan.
A lot of cereal boxes.
From that
we're now
golden
collecting.
era, I collect a lot of cereal boxes. I still buy toys. I wish Toys R Us was still here. I'm a big kid. But yeah, I mean, there's so many. I mean, from Transformers. I mean, to wrestlers, to mask figures, and
Yeah.
I mean, the list goes on. It's so hard to pinpoint. I mean, just toys in general.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you're still in love with toys, so it's
love
I feel
toys.
like it's
It's
harder
hard.
for you to
It's
like
hard.
reflect back
Yeah.
because like you still
It's
are
hard.
in the market.
Yeah.
Krista, what about you? Do you have a favorite toy growing up that you can think of?
So nothing like specifically, because I feel like you kind of grow out of toys as you grow up. My brother was more into like video games.
Yeah.
So basically I always got run off and I wasn't always allowed to play because that was his primary thing.
Oh, shoot.
So that's where like arts and crafts and the creative side
Yeah.
of me really.
So he like pushed you to just find other outlets instead of getting like letting you play
So like
with
I
him.
would try every now and then, but then I just gave up that fight.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
can just go into my bedroom or at the kitchen table and
Yeah.
keep myself busy for hours.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Mine was My Little Pony. I have like one specific My Little Pony that I really was like, had like purple and blue hair and trolls. And it's funny because I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, you know what? I kind of used to like curate these events with like my brother's G.I. Joes and like Ninja Turtles. Like I had these really awesome toy parties. And it's very like, foreseeing of the future of like just wanting to like curate and like do events and stuff. So, it all starts when you're a kid, I guess. I guess that's kind of the point of that. So Denny, do you think there was anything like specific, maybe as like a kid or as a teenager, that really like inspired you to just like put pen to paper, crayon to paper?
When you at a young age, yes, there's it's kind of like cliche to say when you're a kid, I remember drawing and all this.
Right.
We all drew as kids, right?
Yeah.
It's not some of them took it a little more serious, some of them didn't. So when I made friends, I remember making friends, and as a kid, and the first time you go to their house, the parents sort of like they talk, come over. The first thing that we did was draw.
Right.
I don't know, it was something about drawing.
Yeah.
You take pencil because it was always around. You take paper. It's easy. You don't have to think about it too much. Parents are like, oh, I got pens and pencils, markers, or whatever. That was like the ticket. We'd go to my friend's house, and we'd start drawing. I don't remember what we drew.
Yeah.
But that's like one thing that always resonates to me. Like, oh man, I remember going, and this is the gaming era where there's Atari, ColecoVision. Before we even got introduced to that, or it was like first we draw.
Yeah.
It was like something that we had to go through first, sort of like to see like, or if he didn't like my stuff or I didn't like his stuff, back then it was like, we're not gonna be that big of friends, we're not gonna be like that tight. But
So you were like judging each other,
right? You judge
in a
each other
way.
as a kid,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
most part,
Almost like a test.
right?
Yeah.
It's like if we don't relate here,
Yeah.
this might be our last chill date.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we do that, and some people, some kids or some friends, we hit it off to this day. We're friends, like 40, 30-something years later.
Yeah.
We still like tight, whether we see each other or not. But those things resonated, to this day.
Big, yeah.
Drawing, and then in high school, another thing about school was like, all right, gym was my favorite and art was my favorite. So in art, we had art once a week, and that art teacher would come in, and as we're doing work, there's always a certain time where whether it's a Wednesday, I can't remember, one time every Wednesday or Tuesday. So when that lady or that teacher would walk in, we'd light up.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
Everyone's excited.
We're like,
it's art day.
No more. We're done doing the work, and we're about to do art. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So that was big.
So it was kind of an escape
It
from like
was.
the
It
rest
was.
of school.
It's like, yes,
Yeah.
no more work. Let's get into this art. That's one thing. We did and from that went to like high school, and then art. As you started to like talk more about art with your art teachers, and that's how it started. It was just like one thing led to one little thing to one little thing, and it's an escape. Like, who doesn't like art? Like I always wanted to do art. because it was chill.
Yeah.
You know, you
yeah.
don't have to do math, you don't have to do English, you don't have to do
Right.
science.
Well, it
was
came
just like
easy
art.
to you, right? It's
Oh,
like
it's
some people,
definitely-
it's art is not.
Yeah.
It doesn't come
It's
easy.
fun-
to
it was
them.
fun for me.
For you,
You
it
know, it
came
was
easy,
fun.
yeah. And it was
You
a
know.
constant stream.
It was fun.
Yeah,
so
that was always there.
And that's how it, you know, and to this day it's fun. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, I can't. Sometimes if I'm getting a paid jobs, it could be frustrating at that point when you're starting getting paid for jobs.
Right,
you know?
right.
But when you do it for fun and for no money, it's sort of
You have the freedom to express. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, that actually gets into the next question I want to ask you guys was, what do you think is, and this is a hard question because I know there's a lot of challenging aspects of trying to be an artist, right? But I think a lot of people would agree that you two are successful artists, right? And I think that there's so many challenges that have come along the way, right? But what do you think is like one of the more sort of constant challenges that you kind of have to work through in order to like just produce art, whether it's like how you produce it or, you know, is it financial challenges or is it like, you know, I mean, it's always financial challenges, right?
Everything.
Like, is there anything that you find specifically like, like if you need to like get over that hurdle?
I think social media.
Yeah.
Because you always want to have a presence and show that you're working on things. But it's, to me, I'm finding frustrating when you're working on a new series or a new project and you're so excited about it and you want to share it, but you don't want to share too much. You want to keep some mystery. But then I feel like if I'm not posting anything, it's like everyone thinks I'm not producing anything.
The pressure to post.
Yeah. So finding that balance is really tough, I find, sometimes.
Yeah, I agree because it feels like it has to be constant.
Yeah.
And it's like, in some ways it comes naturally, right? And it's like, oh, cool, I want to share this and I'm able to easily share this. But then in other ways, it's like, I don't want to share this.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I don't want to share every single piece of my process.
Right.
Right. But then then it's also like, I feel like there's a lot of comparing. So it's like you see other artists like doing these awesome, like, you know, tutorials of what they did. And it's like, dang, you took all that time to do all that.
Yeah.
It's like, it's great, but sometimes you're not there. I can see that.
Yeah, it's tough because, you know, I think for Krista and I, we have, I can't speak for her, but knowing her long enough, it is hard to put ourselves out there. You know, we're more like behind the curtain.
Yeah.
You know, we like to create and put it out. But when it comes to things like this, we're just like,
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I think that's my challenge.
Yeah.
You know, to be outspoken.
Right.
You know, and even though I've been invited to do like, you know, some speaking and public speaking, you know, I've gotten way better.
Yeah.
Way better. I'm a little more comfortable with myself, and but it's tough, and that's my part of being an artist, which is the hardest. And for you, it's pretty easy, you know, because I don't know, you're just more else, you know. So that helps. That's like 50.
Well, it's in my nature, right?
That's a 50-50
It's like if it's not in your
balance.
nature,
You
yeah.
know, like if I do the painting, but who's gonna
Do the business.
I mean, they're gonna see it and they're gonna figure out what they see. They're gonna come up with their own assumption.
Yeah.
But they want to know about the painting.
Yeah.
How did it come? You know, how did it come about? What's it about? What is it about? And that's where I lack that. So that's what I'm working on.
Talking
You know,
about your work and like the nitty gritty of
Right.
it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I can see how that's a challenge for sure. I mean, I think it's like the balance of both is really important. But also, too, I think that's kind of what makes us a great team, right? Is because like I have no problem,
Right.
you know, like it's in my nature. It's like, you know, I grew up wanting to sing and act and stuff. So it's always kind of like been there to be outspoken. But, you know, it's like being able to do that with you guys and kind of for you guys is, I don't mind. I'll get out there.
Yeah, everyone
but
has got their.
We work well together.
Yeah, yeah.
Pick up where each other lacks and
Exactly.
fill in the blanks.
Yeah, yeah. So kind of getting back to like how we kind of came together, right? I feel like definitely, like obviously me and Denny met in 2006. I saw his artwork in the Oasis. That's how I kind of like found.
That's how we met. Yeah.
That's how we met. Yeah, actually,
Read the paper.
we were. It's in the newspaper. It's in the article.
Don't need to say it again.
But yeah, Krista, you were part of like the Muse, right? It's like you met Frank in Muse days.
I think I
Right?
met him right after that.
Did you?
I
Was it
wasn't
after?
even, yeah.
Yeah.
I hadn't
Okay.
really ventured out to New London fully at that point.
Yeah. Well, when we moved to Brooklyn, I remember you coming to visit with Frank. And that was sort of like the first, like, oh, okay, cool. And Frank was bragging about you, obviously. You know, he saw your work and, you know, how talented you are and everything. And then I guess just over the years, it's been sort of, there's just been reasons to collaborate, right? It's like we've done countless art exhibits together, you know, fashion shows, pop-ups, you know, kind of, I feel like there's been like definitely a crew of about like 10 to 25 of us that sort of like if something's going on, somebody will be like, oh, hey, you know, like come through and do this or come through and participate, right? Yeah, and I mean, Frank was a big part of like bringing the Annex together. You know, we also were with Pat Regan and Semra, and then eventually Chris Starks and Susan Hickman, and there's a lot of people. There's like, you know,
Too many to mention.
There's a lot. There's like 25 right now, but you know, kind of humble beginnings when we were at 60 Bank Street, right? And I think the reality too is like we didn't really know whether it was going to work. We were coming out of the pandemic. It was kind of like we got to do something. You know, somebody kind of mentioned a spot to Frank. Frank mentioned to us, and we kind of just pulled up and we're like, all right, cool. We thought we'd be there for like a month.
Month and 3 months.
And 3 months. And then we thought we had to leave that spot. So we started looking for other spots, and we found the 24 Bank Street location, which was a dream spot in a lot of ways. That's where I feel like we grew from like maybe 6 of us to like 15 within like a couple of months, right? Yeah, and then coming out here to Westbrook, we've met a lot of different artists out here, new artists from all over Connecticut. And now we're headed back to New London. What are you hoping for like sort of like our comeback? I mean, I know obviously it definitely will feel like going home, right? What are your sort of goals for getting back to New London? What does that mean to you?
I'm just going to take it as a fresh start. I'm working on a new body of artwork, so I'm really looking forward to that. Just starting fresh and a little bit more abstract and loose, but still on the same track of what I've been doing all along.
Yeah. I think I feel the same way.
Yeah,
I
just
feel
for like my personal project, and then excited for all of us just to continue growing and
absolutely participating a little bit more in the community out there, right? We have a lot of good support out there, especially over the last couple of years. Feels like they want us.
Yeah, by popular demand.
yeah.
Backed by popular demand. The Annex is here, hopefully to stay. What about you, Denny? What do you think?
I'm just excited to see all the people that want us back, to see us there and just see how happy they are. You know, that's
connect.
Have them come in and be a part of it again.
Yeah.
You know, within that community.
I have to say, like, that's one of the great things about the store is, like, the experience of being together and shopping together, right? I mean, it sounds kind of silly, but, like, there's a lot of people we've known for, like, 10 plus years, and when they come in and shop, it's, like, it's a fun experience, you know?
It's like family.
It is. It is like family, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get to. It's like, it's family.
Yeah.
Coming back in and supporting and being a part of it.
Yeah.
You know, whether you have stuff in there or not.
Right.
You know?
Right. Art openings. We'll do some more art openings. Maybe, depending on where we are, maybe close down a street or two. Who knows?
Great.
World domination, or at least downtown New London domination for now.
One street at a time.
Yeah, one store at a time. Yeah. Yeah, and we had the New London location and Westbrook open at the same time. Having 2 stores was definitely a challenge for us, but I feel like it was a great learning experience. I mean, the whole Annex experiment has for sure been a learning experience. We're all kind of like figuring out the best ways to execute, right? Like, our main goal is to be able to offer a safe space to artists where they can come in, you know, we can all kind of work on like what works as far as like branding and marketing and what sells. It's like definitely we've been able to like look back and be like, okay, like this works or this doesn't, change things up. I'm kind of addicted to rearranging the store, so I try to like live out my interior design dreams through that. Denny's a master at renovating and cosmetically renovating
we
spaces.
all do it together. Everyone puts in their 2 cents.
They do. We do.
So
Yeah.
it's not just
yeah.
me.
Yeah. So
I just carry the hammer. And
carry
the nails,
yeah,
and the nails, the belt,
and the tall stuff.
Yeah.
the high ceilings.
All right. So obviously we talked about challenges. We've talked about a lot of things. One of the things I feel like we don't do enough is sort of like take pride in all of the accomplishments that we've had, right? What do you think, if you had to think of maybe one or two things, and it could be like a specific art exhibit, it could be a specific mural, it could be a specific collaboration. What are you most proud of? Like, as an artist, looking back of your years of creating and putting yourselves out there, is there anything that sticks out?
I have to say, I'm most proud of the consistency that I have, and that's still going. You know, I could have just at a point in my life, I could have been like, I'm done.
Right.
Done. You know, it's just like there's times that we all have a time where it's just like, all right, I think this is it. But you got to keep pushing, and that's what I'm most proud of. To just
Keep going.
keep it going.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I definitely, piggybacking off of that, agree. Just because every new project or painting or whatever I put all my energy into, it's like, this is it. But then, it builds up, you release it to the world, and then you're like, kind of go back down to reality, and it's like, all right, got to do it all over again.
Yeah.
So really, like every show or piece that I make or something that I participate in, I'm like, this is it. But then it's really just to the next project
Yeah.
and the next opening.
Yeah.
Leads into another thing. Yeah. Yeah. I guess I kind of agree with that in a lot of ways. I'm kind of just proud of the fact that I still have ideas, right? It's like, in a sense, that's kind of what you're saying. It's like you definitely go through phases where you're like stuck or blocked or tired or just like don't have the means to do what you really want to do. But I think the fact that I still feel motivated to do something, and I'll still like stay awake at night and like be thinking about an idea. It's like I still have that drive, right? And like the ambition is still
Yeah.
there.
The love
love,
for it.
yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, you
Yeah.
don't love it, you're not.
Yeah.
What's the point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So nothing specific though, as far as like I have one show that I'm like really proud
I'm
of that
sure you have
aesthetically.
great,
Me and Susan had a show and Anna at Studio A above the LNG, and it was just like a super raw space, and it was one of the few fashion shows that had the exact aesthetic that I was going for. So I'm like really hoping to get back to that, and I feel like that's something too. It's like some of your work, when you look back, do you feel like you're like, that was really good, I should do that again, or like do it again but like different or better?
Sure. I mean, there are little bits and pieces of every work that I've done where I want to go back and
Recreate
revisit.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether it's a larger scale or a different color.
Yeah.
But nothing pinpoint. Not a
Nothing.
pinpoint. this, moving on to the next.
Yeah.
Shout out to Frank Lowe.
Frank Lowe will be featured in the next one.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Yeah. Yeah, and obviously the Annex, it's like I think we're all equally proud to like be doing this, and getting the reception that we've gotten is consistently motivating and keeping us on our toes, right? Keeping us growing. So, do you think you guys have any, or is there anything specifically like as far as like people that inspired you, maybe like I guess you could say hero, right? Or like somebody that kind of like you were like, yeah, like that's what they're doing, like I want to do something like that, or kind of like drove you or pushed you to pursue what you're pursuing?
Me being from the New London, Connecticut community, in the arts community, there's a guy, there was a gentleman, God rest his soul, named Barkley Hendricks. Barkley Hendricks was one of my heroes because not only was he a great artist, a great painter, a professor on Con College. His paintings date back to like the 70s. You know, he's got that 70s feel, nostalgia, the color. Look him up, Barclay Hendricks. We had the, he was always in town. Like he was a New Londoner, and he was as big as they came, but living in this little town. We didn't know that. That doesn't seem that way because he's one of us.
Right.
But anyone else, that guy's like, he's big.
Yeah, he's world renowned.
He is. This guy's like one of the best African American painters in our era. So having him around was always a big thing. Like every time I saw him, I just stopped my tracks and talked to him. We spoke. We had a great conversation, and told him how he inspired me every day, and he's why I think he's he walked around with his camera. The relation right there was just inseparable. Like boom, he's an artist, walks around with his camera. Not only does he take pictures, he paints. So we're like, wow. So I think that's one of my guys that I, to this day, is like I look up to and always think of him, and his work is just phenomenal. And that's what drove me into staying humble, because he was a humble dude, and always speaking to the youth as he did as a professor, and I'll talk to like kids and try to like get them to stick to their guns with, no guns involved. Stick to their duties of being artists and pursuing what they want to do in the arts in their development. So I think Barclay Hendricks is number one for me.
And he got to see your work too, right?
And
so
he got
to learn you as an artist.
Yeah, exactly. So he was there to see it, and vice versa. So Barclay Hendricks would be it.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know how you can follow that. Krista.
No. I've seen his work in museums. So
yeah.
That's really cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You had that connection with him.
It's important too, because it's like recognizing the legends of New London County, like our area. Like we don't realize, how powerful people have been in other places, right? It's like we're so focused on like our what we're all doing. It's like, yeah, sometimes you got to step back and be like, oh wow, like these people have accomplished all of these things. And Denny having that experience is it kind of just is like, that's why we want to do these chats, is just so people can understand like there's so much more that goes into what we're doing, right? Quick and easy. It's all there's a lot of history. There's a lot of history. So what do you think? Anybody for you, Krista, that sticks out, or anything that you saw growing up that?
Well, growing up, I didn't know that people were living artists and had careers as it, honestly. So I feel like I'm coming into it, got into the art world and pursuing a career in it. Came like later, and I'm still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
But I remember checking out Lime Academy before I went there, and seeing Katie Fogg's artwork and Alicia Shower. So those were some like local-ish people that, seeing their work, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. I would love to come and study here and create something half as beautiful, amazing, interesting as some of their work, among many other local artists. But
yeah,
I think that's it.
Yeah. And sometimes that's really what it takes, right? It's like, and then now, same kind of thing, like you're able to have relationships with these people and share your artwork and kind of still be on that journey of like growing together and working off of each other. It's, for me personally, definitely, I think it was just, there was a lot of like powerful women in my life, whether it was like friends who were artists or actors or dancers, or even like my step-grandmother, who I didn't really even know but kind of knew. She had a boutique in New York, and she was a designer. So it was just like learning, like you're saying, learning that that's possible, right? It's like knowing that like, oh, like this is totally possible. And I had a music teacher, Judy Mack, who was like, she just ran all the recitals. I mean, she still does. Like, she just very organized, but like always one of those women who's like doing so much work, like with her community through music. And, you know, she definitely was a big part of me just feeling, I think it's like the people that give you the confidence, right? So it's like, I'm sure in a lot of ways too, like meeting Barkley, it's like him seeing your work and having that relationship, that just builds your confidence to like feel like my art is worth it. My talents are worth putting out there. You know, it's like, that's kind of the best kind of, I guess, hero or inspiration is the one that you can actually like have a relationship with, right?
Right.
It's like, I'm sure we could name a bunch of people that are like celebrities or whatever, you know what I mean? Or people we'll never meet, people in history. But the reality is the most important one is the one that actually impacts your life directly. So, all right. So this next question is kind of like one of those, it's hard because I try not to live with regret. So I don't always want to think about these things, but I think it's helpful for other people. So what kind of advice would you give to your 19-year-old self? And I go with 19 because I feel like 19, it's like you graduated high school, right? Or you're done with high school and you're kind of like, are you going to go to school? Are you going to travel? Are you going to work? You're kind of like forced to figure out what you're supposed to do, right? Like that's sort of the bubble is everybody's like, what are you doing with your life now? You're 19, you should know everything, right? So it feels like one of the tougher ages. What would you tell your 19-year-old self? What would you say?
Don't be so hard on yourself. Just keep making, keep creating. And honestly, I should have just found better mentors at a younger age besides just my teachers. And getting more involved within the arts community and your local communities because that's where you will meet people that inspire you and push you, and then you can kind of take it to the next level from there. So, yeah, being less shy, getting out of my bubble, and just keep creating.
Yeah.
You're not shy.
Yes, you are.
Take it away, Denny.
Speaking of not shy.
Nah, you know what? Speaking of not shy, if I could be 19 again, I'd tell myself to wake up and smell the coffee because there's a long road ahead of us. And you know, and to be alert and to show appreciation for things that are coming, for what you have, and live in that sense of a way, you know. And I mean, not saying that I didn't, but you know, you get sidetracked with, you know, growing, and you know, you think you know it all at that age, which we don't. Which I'm trying to tell my son that today, that he's got so much to learn, because as of today, we're still learning. So luckily that instead of being 19, I tell myself now, my 40-something self to be in that position. Like, all right, ask yourself now for later. So I'm trying to do now for later so I don't have to ask myself these same questions being 19.
Yeah.
So I'm already ready. So, you know, so I'm like, all right, instead of waiting all 20 years, I actually did what I wanted to do. So now, you know, but you know, you grow.
Yeah.
You know, everyone has its time.
Yeah.
You know, not everyone as smart as ladies. You know, ladies are always smarter than us.
I don't think so. I was pretty stupid at 19.
But, you know, I'm just kidding. But, you know,
Yeah.
it's just, you know, doing that. Even if you could just cut that time, then now you can live and not ask yourself, what, you know, being 50 in 10 years, be like, I should have asked myself that. No, I lived. I did my best to do that instead of saying, ask myself 19, wasting 20 years.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
that'd be it.
I think for me, I would tell myself that, you know, you don't need validation from anybody. I think at that age, I was still kind of like needing everybody to tell me that I was making the right decisions, you know, instead of just being like, just go for it. Just go for it. And just like, you know, I think a lot of times we get caught up in like the social aspects at that age. Just like in high school, we're so social. Like everything's about your friends, right? It's like if you don't see your friends the next day, it's like the end of the world, you know? I wish there was a way we could not have that happen to us, like socially, I feel like there's so much time to be social when you're in your 20s and your 30s. It's like, it's okay, like, it's okay. Like, if these friends are your friends, they will still be there, even if you want to leave and go do this or live there or whatever. So I guess just, not needing to rely on anybody. You don't need to rely on anybody. Just do you. Be bold, right? Just don't be timid.
That's right.
Yeah. Jump out there. Okay, I think I'm done torturing Krista and Denny for this Annex Artist Chat. Thank you guys for doing
You're
this
welcome.
with
Thank
me.
you.
I appreciate you both.
And thanks to the man behind
And
the
thank you to Alexander Alvarez.
Yeah. Look him up.
He's. I really can't even. I mean, if I could just everybody give Alex a big air hug, because it's like he's got so much talent. And he's producing all of this and working on the post, and me and him going at it, trying to figure out like what are our concoction of how to make these things, put these things out there. And that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to put positivity out in the world. We're trying to get people in the community to interact with each other on a different level. And I think that we're onto something. So I hope you guys will all follow us on our journey and stay tuned, because we will be returning to New London soonish. We're going to be back. So thank you to everybody. We'll see you soon. Is that good? Sweet.